Once again, good evening to everyone, and welcome to all of you from the Philippines, from different parts of the Philippines. And we are excited to have Pastor Manny and Pastor Matthew come over to the Philippines soon on March 21 to 24. And we will hear more details from Pastor Manny about what this meeting is all about. And we have many here who are currently pastors. Some are church planters. Some are involved in church planting ministry. And this is exciting that we could hear God's vision through World Link Ministries. And they have gone to different parts of the world, and hearing the testimony of Pastor Manny, it's truly inspiring for me personally, and exciting that this can happen here in the Philippines as well. And we will give this time to you, Pastor Manny, to orient us and give us more information about World Link Ministries, and maybe later on we can have question and answer portion for our pastors to ask you anything that's in their mind or in their heart.
Very, very good. Very grateful for the opportunity to meet with all of you. And we have been on a quest in ministry since approximately 40 years ago. We began ministry right through the seminary years, Dallas Theological Seminary. I had the privilege of planting a church, and by the Lord's grace, it continues even now in the city of Garland, very close to Dallas, Texas. And but that was really the building blocks that God was using in my life to go on to have ministry in Spain. In Spain, because of the very secular nature of Europe, you need a lot more training, a lot more understanding about what we believe, and also about why we believe it. There are a lot of people that have been brainwashed by humanistic ideas or secularist ideas, and we have had to help them to overcome the fallacies in each one of their philosophies or thoughts. And because of the need, I was invited by other brothers around different parts of Spain to do extension centers where we could take modules and teach in those modules while they would engage also in evangelism and church planting. And so this started in 1985 early, and we have been going since. We were invited next to Morocco, and in Morocco, everything had to be done in either Arabic or in French. And truly, for many of the people who are in ministry, the Moroccans, they speak either Arabic or Berber. And so you have to make materials available to them in those languages. We were able to connect with a ministry that a lawyer started in Atlanta, Georgia, many years ago. His name was Dr. Dennis Mock. He is now with the Lord. And he translated the curriculum, the program of studies from Dallas Theological Seminary for a 2-year program called the Master of Arts in Biblical Studies. He translated it into a number of languages. So we have it in Chinese, Mandarin, or also in Cantonese, and a number of other dialects. We have it in Hindi, and we have it in Tamil in India, and we have it in a number of other dialects in India. We also have it in Spanish and in French and in Vietnamese, etc. So everywhere we have gone, we've been able to use this curriculum that helps people to learn the 66 books of the Bible, the 14 doctrines of the Christian faith, and a set of pastoral ministry skills. So this has accelerated the rate of church planting, because these brothers in their own context already know their culture. They know what to say, they know what not to say, they know how to say it, and they're able to communicate with their people. And they don't get homesick. They don't need to go back to the US, etc. So this has allowed us to do a lot of church planting. We have been able to, in Cuba, in a 20-year period, lead many, many people to the Lord, according to an accounting company that came to find out if this was really true and really working. They had actually began to count officially for us and really for themselves because they were participating with us. They told us when we had reached 1 million conversions in Cuba. It took almost 20 years to do that. But by the Lord's grace and by the numbers that they've been keeping, they've been aware of that ahead of us. And then there were many, many churches that have been started. The weighted average of those churches normally is about 100 people to 150 people each, and they number in the thousands. And then we have been able to go into Ukraine with the very same invitation back in the year 2000, the same time we went into Cuba. And there, the church planting is not nearly as aggressive as it is in Cuba, but there have been about 3,000 church plants that have been produced in the 22 years in Ukraine. And then from Ukraine, we went into Romania, back into Italy, over into Africa, where we're in Sierra Leone and in Liberia, and also in Togo, West Africa. And so from there, we have also gone into Mexico, where we are working in 2 or 3 cities in the area. We have, to reduce time, we've been to about 15 to 17 countries. And this year, we're hoping to see how the Lord leads and opens up doors, hopefully in Philippines and in also in Vietnam, but also in Russia, if there's no war, which we're praying there will not be. Then we can go in May. We have spoken with the seminary there. In Ukraine, we've been praying with our Ukrainian brothers so that the war would not come and interfere with the evangelism and church planting that are going so well there. Then beyond those fields, we're also going into Venezuela. They have asked us to come and help them because they heard of what we're doing in Cuba, because Venezuela and Cuba are partners. And they have noticed that whereas they were a very wealthy country before, they had all kinds of oil and they could finance a lot of what they were doing, even help Cuba. Now, because of what has happened to their government, they are down on their knees. And $1 used to be able to buy 35,000 bolivares. Bolivar is the standard bill for their currency. Well, they used to be able to buy 35,000 of those, but today $1 is buying 400,000 bolivares. So to pay them a stipend of $20, which is what we have been paying in Cuba, that is an amazing price to them. So we are going into areas where obviously the Lord has enabled us to do partnerships where we can make a difference, can help. In other places like Russia, we can't make a difference financially because it is a very wealthy country. Russia, suddenly, everything is very high inflation. But we're working with Moscow Seminary, and we're going to start this this next cycle, which is in the fall of 2022. But we'll start training and deploying people already, Lord willing, in May. So this is just a smattering of what we have been doing in different parts of the world. What we do is we go into a country and look for 7 factors that will help us to start this paradigm flowing. The first factor is to find vocational young people that want to go into ministry, do evangelism, plant churches, get trained for ministry, and make ministry their career. So by finding those first and foremost, then we can have an evangelistic force that is led by the Spirit and is able to not only lead people to Christ, but bring them together into churches. Number two commodity is teachers that are able to teach the different courses, the 66 books of the Bible, the 14 doctrines of the faith, and a set of ministry skills for the young folks to become pastors. They're not always young. They can be in their 40s, or some people have begun even in their 60s and have been able to plant churches. So it can work with just about anybody who has a very committed heart. So the teachers are going to be important. Number three is the places where we need to gather them to teach them. During the pandemic, we've had to do a lot of things in Zoom. In fact, within about an hour or so, I need to teach pastors in Africa, in Sierra Leone, in a Zoom conference. We're covering only one book this time, the book of Romans, but we're doing it only Romans by itself because it's such an important book to doctrine and to the New Testament and to understanding salvation and so on. And they are caught in a number of different theories about salvation and the lack of it and the loss of it and so on. So we have to do a lot of careful teaching through that so that they can truly catch on in all of this. So we have used Zoom, but ideally, if we can bring them together into a place, we're able to teach them in courses that need their presence. For example, if we're going to teach preaching or homiletics, we need a dialogue that is very clear and very active right then and there, and that they can understand and ask questions and try thoughts and so on, so that they can be taught adequately. And other courses like apologetics are hard to explain when you are just kind of watching casually on a television set. But when you are there and you engage with questions and answers and clarifications, then it becomes alive and very, very powerful. So we do, some courses have to be done presentially, and others can be done through Zoom if necessary. So the places to meet is number three. Number four is the curriculum proper, and I've told you a little bit about it. The 10 books are the Master of Arts in Biblical Studies, and they cover that on an average, by doing it in modules, they cover an average of 3 years. And then beyond the curriculum, and the most comforting thing, by the way, about the curriculum is that once you take people through that, you discover that they really know a lot more about Bible. They have a panoramic of the Bible. They have a panoramic of theology, doctrine, and they also understand a lot of ministry skills. And for example, one of the guys that we've been planting churches, we've already planted over 600 churches with him in India, in Mumbai. His entire training is these 10 books. And when I said that's exactly what we're coming to do and so on, he said, well, I don't like for people to be there unless they're truly going to be multipliers. That's a key word that we use a lot, multipliers. What we want is not merely people that will absorb this and consider themselves blessed because they have more knowledge. What we want is people who will be multipliers, who will go out and reach others and bring them together so that they can learn the different secrets of the faith and the doctrines of the faith and so on. So that's very, very important. So number four, the curriculum transforms people. That's the most exciting news I can share with you. People that go through the 10 books really come out on the other end, understanding a lot about the scriptures, having resources, able to connect, and so on. So we're very thrilled for that. Number 5 is normally what it takes to run the program financially in any given region of the world. And obviously that is one of the challenges. And we try to get people involved from churches in the US that are able to help us to make it run. Number 6 is normally the person, the man that will be in charge of shepherding or facilitating the program. And that number 6 is going to be very, very key because he is able to communicate with every one of you, is able to communicate with the students and church planters, is able to keep the vision alive, is able to understand how we mean for it to work, etc. So that's very important. Number 6, the man. And then number 7 is a God-given maturity in every one of the other 6 factors. When we see mature students who are diligently wanting to make their mark by planting churches, leading people to Christ and planting churches, by being taught and learning and then bringing other disciples along, by being transformed by the curriculum and trying to assimilate it in the best way. When we see the funding that is there for us to be able to do the paradigm quite effectively, when we have the right person to lead the program, to champion the cause, and when we see God-given maturity through it all, then we're able to ignite and go forward. So what we want is at this point to generate an understanding, a vision, and awareness. And then what we're proposing to do is to come. There would be about 4 of us that would come. There would be Matthew, my son-in-law, that knows Pastor Neil directly from the seminary days. It would be a couple of guys that help us to tell the story by doing a small video about what are the needs going on in Philippines, what are the young people thinking, possible evangelists and church planters that we can meet, ask about their testimony and that people can meet and get excited about it, or works that are being developed where they've been around for a short period of time, but they're already gathering, having meetings and so on, so that people get their thoughts going in the right direction, and then they want to participate and be part of us. So the idea would be to come and in about 4 days, be able to talk to as many of you as possible, understand what's going on with each of you as much as possible, with potential candidates for the program that would be willing to go and serve the Lord and be able to learn and be able to begin and keep on going and growing and becoming evangelists, church planters, and church multipliers, and then be able to see a great contribution with their lives into the cause of the gospel. So that would be the idea of our coming and getting this done in about 4 days. One of the guys, the videographer, is a very busy technician that works in an operating room in California and does different types of medical work. His partner friend is a Jewish friend who leads a big dentist clinic in Modesto, California. And he also helps in the production of that story video that helps us to tell the story to people that are going to participate with us to make it possible to put on the program. And so it would be the 4 of us coming for that period of time, and then being able to begin to put together a timeline where we can begin to see already productivity and people in the process, and hopefully begin to see growth. That's in a nutshell what we do and where we've been and where we would like to go. So I don't know if there are questions, clarifications, anything that anyone might have.
Thank you so much, Pastor Manny, for sharing the vision
Mhm.
of what the Lord has been doing with World Link Ministries worldwide. And we have many pastors here. In fact, some are involved with the Philippine Council of Evangelical Churches in terms of championing the church planting movement in the Philippines. We have various denominations who are part here for joining us tonight. And one of my friend has been planting churches among um, tribal people in Mindanao, in the
Mhm.
uh, predominantly Muslim places in southern Philippines. So we would like to open up this time for question and answer. Well, do you have any questions for Pastor Manny that you'd like to bring up? And you introduce yourself, state your name, your ministry, and you can ask a question. Anybody would like to ask any question for that matter?
I, Neil.
Okay, Pastor.
Morning. Good,
Hello po.
good evening. Good evening. I guess you have a great module that you have presented. What if, just in case, there are some overlapping modules that were taken already by those who have attended or who are attending your training? Since I've heard that the master, one of the your program lasts for 3 years.
Yeah.
So how about if there are some courses that were already, and this is not about telling you, oh, we know that already. No, no, it's about, I guess we have done this one and maybe we can proceed to another one that would really help us in the context of the Philippine church planting.
Yeah. There is a lot of mm, a feeling that we already know an amazing amount in many parts where we go. What we discover on average is that many times, because they've heard concepts um, or even an introduction to a particular course, they may think that they are very familiar with it. But the quality of the materials that we're using were normally put together with professors with an average of 2 doctorates at Dallas Theological Seminary. And they were compiled by this Dr. Dennis Mock. And I have had friends with PhDs from Dallas Theological Seminary. One of them is going to Sierra Leone with me, Lord willing, in May of this year, in just a couple of months. And he did get his PhD, but just about every course that we invite him to teach, he prefers to use the notes of BTCP because they're quite complete and they are concise. And he feels the work has already been done, the legwork, and he is very, very happy with that. We also feel that if we're able to take the people through that material, they will also know what they have, where they have it. Within those 10 books, they're able to have all the notes for the 66 books of the Bible, for the 14 doctrines of the faith, and for the ministry skills that we're going to expose them to, so that we don't shortchange anybody in not covering some of those courses. Even when somebody has studied them, we are happy for the quality of that material, and because they also in turn are able to share it with other people. So it's happening, for example, in Muslim areas where Christians need to know very clearly what is the difference between themselves and other brands of Christianity, and also between themselves and Muslims and so on. So you know, we want them to be quite familiar with all of the material in that curriculum and not necessarily have a spotty approach to it, because they may have picked up something or not. One quick testimony would be when I was going to take angelology, study of angels, demons, and Satan in the Dallas Theological Seminary. It was Dr. Norman Geisler who was going to be my professor at the time. And he wanted to know, why do you want to validate the course? I said, because I already took it at Multnomah. And he said, well, we are going to go much deeper. And he said, we're going to look into Verkauer, which is man, the image of God, and so on. We're going to do this, that. He started to explain to me. And he said, I will ask you some questions to see if you can pass that course right now. And I'd rather you not study it, just to know, did you really learn and retain? And he asked me questions. And by the Lord's grace, I was able to answer. And he said, okay, I can let you do that. But what will you take in its absence? So I shared that I felt we needed to do evangelism immediately. And so on. And I told him, I want to give myself to those very, very practical purposes and produce something. Well, he said, what you're telling me is you understood soteriology so well that you have an urgency about it. And what I wish for is that you would give yourself equally to the whole counsel of God, so that we could see a type of Christianity that will be high impact in your life and through the ministry that the Lord might lead you to do. After about an hour with him, my major coming out of the meeting was systematic theology, which it wasn't before I had that time with him. So yes, he did go a lot deeper. And amazingly, ironically, the first course I taught formally in Central American Theological Seminary, when I was invited, they invited me to come and teach angelology, which is what Dr. Geisler had taught me. So, and I had a lot more depth, certainly a lot more material than I had in the first round. And my hope is that we would be able to enrich anybody who has already studied some, so they'll have a good hold on the whole counsel of doctrine and biblical teaching.
Yeah, thank you so much. I guess that's really great. Enhancing, enriching, that would really help. Thank you, Manny.
Thank you, brother. God bless you.
One thing that I am inspired with World Link is the combination of various passion or a calling from God to bring a movement of evangelism, church planting, and training of pastors at the same time, which is somehow very much lacking here in the Philippines. We have all these different movements. Some are passionate with evangelism, some are passionate with church planting, some are passionate with training of pastors. But to see these three together in one and much more, it's an amazing, it's an inspiring ministry. And I think Dr. Dito Sampan has gone through a lot of training from the seminary, and many of us here are also trained and equipped in seminary. It's humbling to be able to say, I want to learn again. And I think that's wonderful. We have some more questions. Pastor Chris.
Thank you, Dr. Neil. Yes, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Pastor Manny. Thank you for inviting us to this meeting. I have so many questions actually, but let me just focus on two initially. First is, when can we have an overview of the curriculum, so that we can have an idea on the materials that we're going to use? Are we going to undergo like a teacher's training? So that's the first group of questions. And the second is, what would be the setup between World Link Ministries and the pastors who would join? understandably, many of the pastors here are currently handling their own local churches and ministries. So what would be the dynamics of that? Thank
Yeah,
you.
normally the things that happen with churches is that churches use the relationship with World Link to multiply the number of daughter churches that they wanted to produce. And that has happened in many, many, many cases. There's Christ the Rock in a place in Havana, and they opened up 60 daughter churches in relationship to what we were doing with World Link. There's Artemisa that has produced the most churches in Cuba. They have 200 daughter churches. And we trained them, we deployed them. We have helped with stipends to be able to get the people engaged and motivated and so on. And the product and byproduct has been churches. And the churches, the large mother churches that participate normally are able to multiply their vision in their relationship partnership that we develop. And you know, the idea of a curriculum or becoming a teacher is not necessarily what we have in mind. It really depends on what is going on at that church or with that pastor or his ministry. And for example, some people who have been trained in a seminary and are able to handle the materials and even fill in some courses that have been missed by others that come later into the program. You know, we have that situation in Natal, Brazil right now. And the senior pastor of that church wanted to be a teacher to bring along those who came late into the program. So he just met with about 40 of them to train them and to prepare them so that as we go in April to do the next course, we'll have 40 additional students that have been made ready by taking a course they missed originally, but have been caught up. So we're expecting literally over 80 students for that course as we come together in April because of the makeup of the ones that have been trained by that pastor. So to be accepted in the BTCP program is not difficult. In one weekend, you can be trained on how to use the materials. And if you are willing to use them like Bible Training Center for Pastors or BTCP uses them, they will certify that you are a trained pastor that is able to bring others along into the program. So that can happen that way, but it's not necessary. You know, that is, if you want to, that would be great. But if you are already busy because of your responsibilities, it is not a requirement that you become one of the teachers that are going to help bring people along. You know, what we want is rather to be able to multiply the impact of your work. With all the churches that we've planted around the world, none of those is named World Link Church. Not one. We are not called to be a bishopric. We are not called to start a denomination. We're not interested. We're really, it really is a calling into the Great Commission by the Lord Jesus Christ. And really, you know, what we do is just try to help the church fulfill its program. You know, many people ask what it is that we do. And we say we make disciples by teaching them everything that we can and helping them to be consistent in applying it in obedience towards church planting. And so they do evangelism and church planting. And then we like to leave trained leaders in charge of those churches, because if not, they become fertile ground for cults. People come along and just sweep them away, and we don't want to do that. So a way of securing what has been gained is by giving them quality training that will teach them what we believe, why we believe it, according to the scriptures. Okay.
Thank you, Pastor Manny.
Amen. Amen. There's another pastor with a hand up, Pastor Raul Enriquez.
Yes, I think we are privileged because we are using the BTCP in our school. We have the 10 modules. So I think I have one here with me with a course number 5 about the Bible doctrine survey. So I think we're very much familiar with what you're saying, Pastor Manny. So I think we could do that and help also. I have also the privilege to train as a teacher for BTCP, and some of our delegates here are already done some of the programs of the BTCP. So I think you're right that what you're saying in using these materials by Dennis J. Mock. Is that right? Yes. Yeah. So
yes,
if that is true, then I think some of us in Central Luzon will be able to continue on with the program of the World Link. So I think we are not new with the program, so we just need, I think, go along with your program if you bring it here in the Philippines.
Well, praise God, because you know the quality and the sound doctrine that is exposed in that material, and you know we were trained with that by the professors that that dictated those lectures, and we're just happy to be able to multiply the teaching. So
yeah, thank you, Pastor Manny.
Thank you. There's another brother, Chris Yanga, and he has a hand up.
Chris, pakibaba mo na lang yung icon mo ng taas ang kamay.
I think Pastor Chris was the first one who asked the question.
Okay, I didn't realize that. Okay, very good.
Perhaps many of us here, or some, may not be familiar with the program called BTCP, or Bible Training for Pastors.
Bible Training Center for Pastors, yeah.
Bible Training Center for Pastors. And I think this is in a nutshell, someone who graduated from Dallas Theological Seminary, took the entire Master of Arts in Biblical Studies program, and compiled it into this course for training pastors. And I think one thing inspiring about this movement is we will be, raising church planters or calling upon church planters to do church planting ministry, but we want to equip them. We want to provide them a training so that we will know that the churches that they plant will be on solid ground, that they won't just start a cult. It's easy to plant many churches, and I think here in our country as well, we have an explosion of churches over the past few decades, and still going on. But one thing is, we are not certain of the quality of training that these church planters, that personally have, and maybe some of them don't even have any training at all. And so I think the passion of World Link is to bring this other organization that is not necessarily World Link, but it is adding value to the church planters, so that if you encourage your daughter churches to start churches or to raise up church planters, we are certain that they will be equipped on solid ground with BTCP training, which is a 3-year program. That's what Pastor Manny is saying. So it's not going to be a fast track training, but it's going to be over a 3-year program. Perhaps maybe one question is, how often will these church planters attend this training? On a weekly basis, or is it on a monthly basis?
It's a monthly basis. And normally it tends to be according to time available and for the participants. But we tried to move it along so that we are covering at least in some books, half a book per session. If we're not able to do that and it slows way down, then obviously it's going to take us longer. We're grateful, to be able to make progress, but we also want to do it at a level of assimilation that will truly be germane to the participants. If we are just rushing through and merely reading a book for them, well, they might as well read it on their own. But if we truly engage in the content, and we discovered the importance about how doctrine comes out. For example, just yesterday, I was teaching these pastors in Sierra Leone. And the reason why we're teaching pastors is because we love to teach church planters, but there, no pastor has, maybe one or two in about 10 different counties has, one or two have gone to seminary for a very, very brief period of time. So they all have many, many questions. And there's an amazing amount of unawareness. A church planter has planted 11 churches, and I'm there and I'm congratulating him and so on. And there's this, rosary-like crucifix hanging from his neck. And I was curious. I said, "Where do you get your crucifix?" He said, "This is a very special gift that a missionary friend gave me." I said, "Where's the missionary from?" He said, "The United States." I said, "Really? And why did he have that?" He said, "Because he is also related to a bishop from the Mormon church." And that's how, and I said, "So he's a missionary Mormon, a Mormon missionary?" He said, "Yes." In his mind, there are Christians and then there are pagans, and all Christians are the same. They all claim Jesus Christ. Well, we have a lot of work to do with our brother and with a number of others. There's an amazing amount of superstition. There's an amazing amount of misunderstanding. They have been told, don't pray in Jesus' name because he is too high above us. Pray in the name of your pastor. The pastor many pastors have said this to their congregation. Pray in the name of your pastor because he is your spiritual head and he represents you before Jesus. Well, you see, it says there's only one mediator, 1 Timothy 2:5, and we have to help them understand, why do we not inject ourselves between ourselves and the other believers? What does the Bible have to say about that? And these are just a couple of questions, but the group that I'm dealing with needs an amazing amount of training simply because they are manipulated very much due to the ignorance. And we need to help them understand what the Bible truly teaches. That's the very thing that Luther wanted to do way back in the Reformation. He didn't want the people manipulated in the name of the Catholic Church, that was selling indulgences to gather gold to build St. Peter's Basilica and so on. So we see a need to train in so many contexts. And that's what we're hoping will happen wherever we are. Okay.
Pastor Lito, you have a follow-up?
Yeah, it's ano lang yan. I just want to know. BTCP was really in the Philippines now, but I'm just curious if we have translated it already in Tagalog or in other dialects. Meron na
I
ba,
would
Raul?
imagine it is in Tagalog because they translate right away in major languages. And, they will also translate into tribal languages that have a considerable base, but considerable to them can be hundreds of thousands of people. So, even with a couple 100,000, they would translate it. And they have advanced so much in their technology that now through computers, they are able to translate into some dialects within a matter of a couple of months or something of the sort. And they've gained a lot of speed in translation. Instead of having one person sit with the material and do it all, they have readers after it has gone through some of the basic translations that will improve what has been produced, but they don't have to do the bulk of the translation.
Yeah, thank you. Chris, you can Google sa BTCP materials. You can see the whole curriculum. So BTCP materials.
Yeah.
Have that one. Really, this is great because it involves a deeper understanding of, just like what Neil is saying, the deeper you go with your belief, the more established you will be in your faith. Thank you. Thank you, Manny. Thank you, Neil.
Amen. Amen.
So, Pastor Manny, one of my question is, when you come over here, you mentioned a couple of activities that you would like to do. It's going to be a 4-day period. Will it be informal type of interaction? Will it be a formal sit down? Will it be inviting candidates to come and join? What will be your plan for the 4-day period?
Yeah, we would love to meet with the pastors and be able to record some of our exchange about some of our goals, desires, dreams, vision. I think that will normally appeal to people. Vision is king. When we share vision, normally people get excited, particularly if it's a vision of greatness in what we're trying to do. It'll capture the imagination and people will say, that's it. And that's what we want to do. And so when people reach that point, it will be because vision was a vision of greatness and we've captured the imagination. And that is good also for brothers who are going to join in the effort, for them to see and get excited and be part of what we're trying to accomplish. And so it's a multiple partnership where more and more people come together and they give us what is called a capacity about being able to enact a strategy that will in turn take us to the vision. So according to Fortune 500 consultants, they say every enterprise that is really a going concern has 3 components, and they draw 3 boxes. Box number 1, great vision. Box number 2, great strategy. Box number 3, capacity. Great capacity is the ideal. But normally when we start, like when we start a little church, it's like a mom and pop operation, like a little store. And as people come into it, human resources and financial resources, then that box grows to be commensurate to what we're going to be able to do. And so that's how we grow it, by telling the story. And the more we share the vision, the more that box grows, capacity. And the more we're able to enact the strategy, and the greater the vision, the impact of what we're trying to achieve. So that's why we have to share it with everybody. We have to share it among ourselves. We have to share it with people that are going to participate. We have to share it with the young people or folks that want to plant churches. We have to share it with everybody. The more we share it, everybody will take ownership at different levels within that vision. And that's what we do.
Wonderful. That's so amazing. And this will be on March 21st to 24, which is coming up soon, right?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
when I
Shorter
have
than a month away. shorter than a month away because February ends soon. Yeah.
So we have an idea. I proposed to Pastor Manny uh, that they can be housed in a hotel in Robinson's Galleria, which is very central. People coming from the south north, it's very central place along EDSA, and we could have our meetings there because I think they have capacities where we could invite people to come in and rent some big hall to invite. Do you want pastors to come for this duration of 4-day period? Will there be a program involved?
Yeah, I don't think that we have to do it for all 4 days, but if we did it for one strategic day and we review all of these things and are able to ventilate all the more questions, even in the presence of the people that might participate in church planting, then we will also be able to follow up with appointments for recordings of testimonies, of vision, of young people who are excited about serving the Lord, doing evangelism and church planting, and tell us their life story or things of the sort. When people see how the Lord has been preparing lives to join him in the ministry, then enthusiasm is born. And that carries us into participation. And that's what we want to do. We just want to discover one another as before the Lord and be able to work together to serve him and be all the more excited because we're part of something much bigger than ourselves. So,
Praise
yes.
God. So that's exciting. And one other question, we have Pastor Rafi Serafin Dimaano. You have a question? Please share.
Yes, good evening once again.
Good evening.
I'm trying to get as much from the explanation for the purpose of trying to establish at what point I can relate to. You see, I'm a member of a church where I'm not a pastor.
Uh-huh.
And years back, I strongly felt maybe because I was influenced by the Gideons, because I was a Gideon's member years back in another foreign country, in Brunei. I think this strongly influenced me that when I came back home in the Philippines, I started to desire to have a similar contact with people who are not normally reached out by organized Christian movement. The thing in my mind is that with World Link, do you have a link for people like me to have an introductory, at least an overview of the modules, so that before the event on March 21st to 24th, I can identify where I may be working quite weakly, relatively, and be able to identify the points where I need to be trained more. That's the main point that I want to.
I think, pastors who know BTCP may be able to help you by evaluating where you are in the process and then helping you to join in the right way or into the right courses or at the right moments. Normally, when people have had a collection of experiences, it is not uniform and it's not thorough about what we're trying to achieve. The other thing is that in our approach, we try to have teachers who on average have at least a master's in divinity or theology. And the reason is because, there will be questions. I mean, I'm getting bombarded with questions that if I had not studied, I would not be able to answer, obviously. And they are not simple questions. They are complex questions. In the jungles of Brazil, an Indian from the jungles of Peru who had come through a network of rivers down to where we were studying wanted to know, was Melchizedek merely a pagan Canaan deity or king, or was he something else? Because how could it be that Abraham is paying tithes and the Aaronic priesthood is paying tithes to him if he is just a pagan king? And before I know it, we're discussing Christophanies and Theophanies and the difference. And we are on the border of the jungle. And God surprised me again. They're all made in my image. And they know and they sense and they want to know. So when I told him, for me, it is more than, I see Christophany here. And the way that it gets explained to us in Hebrews as to what was going on and how special this Melchizedek was, it goes way beyond a Canaan pagan deity or king. And when I said, to me, it's a Christophany, this Indian man said, that's the only conclusion I come to. I can't come up to any other. The attributes that he's given are just too great to be just a pagan king, a Canaanite pagan king. So he's got to be something else. Amazingly, Dr. Darrell Bach just wrote a book, a few years back for Israel, for evangelical Israeli churches who don't believe in the deity of Christ. And he bases his entire teaching on this, on the Melchizedek priesthood. And so it's fascinating. Well, these people appreciate that you're not, trying to dumb down the teaching, but rather bring them as far along as you can. And I think it gives them self-worth. It gives them confidence in what they're learning. It encourages them, if they're going to go beyond, to go ahead and study more. And we've taken people that have gone through 3 steps, and in the 3rd step, they're getting a doctorate at Southwestern right now. So we are able, as to take somebody as far as they're willing to go, and we've worked at it. And we've had a few graduates with their masters and now with doctorates. So not everybody, thankfully, because it consumes a great deal of time, but it did prove themselves to be quite capable and quite willing and wanting to get at the whole program as far as they can go. By all means, they are the Lord's, and we respect them as such. So yeah, we're able to encourage them along. There's another question here from Brother Raul, or did you ask your question?
Actually, in terms of the curriculum of BTCP, I think I can help. I can take the picture of the curriculum and send it to our GC so that our participants will know where they will be going in regards for the BTCP materials. Okay. So I can help on that area, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you. Okay.
I don't know what the time allowance was, but Brother Neil, you can tell me about it.
Okay. Perhaps we can allow several more questions. One of the questions that was asked to me personally, we have one of our delegates here. He is totally blind, and he used to be sighted, but now he did not see. But he's involved with training. He's studying in a seminary, and he has Bible studies among the visually impaired. He was asking if we have materials for those who are visually impaired for BDCP? Will this be accessible for them?
You know, I am not aware, but I will ask. It would not surprise me if they do have it. Their sole mission is to make their materials available the world over to any group. And so I will look into it and we will get back to you. And if they don't, I will ask them what it would take to get materials for people who are visually impaired, and they will tell us. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Pastor Manny. I think we will just keep in touch regarding
Okay.
this your arrival on March, and we will post more information to everyone, and hope that we could have everyone come, even for one full day, and you can have several days that you can come back, so that you could be interviewed for your testimony. In total of 4 days, try it out if you could make yourself available these 4 days, and we will give you more information as the days come by. But is there anybody else who has a pressing question that you'd like to ask before we officially end our time tonight? The question is when. It will be March 21, which is a Monday, all the way to March 24, which is a Thursday. So this will be a 4-day this coming March. Okay, so few more weeks to come.
Mhm.
Okay, Pastor Raul, you have a question?
Dr. Neil, because we are here in Central Luzon, so is there a possibility that, if you are in Manila and then have a place also, a meeting place here in Central Luzon, just like, what we would like to do in Manila, and then another meeting in Central Luzon, because we're having probably a problem traveling, going to Manila and going back here. So I think that is my concern, or our concern here in Central Luzon.
Mhm.
Okay, for sure we can set up something. I'm thinking of at least 3 locations that we could have some sort of a gathering. One would be in Bulacan area, where Pastor Raul is located, which is south. Is it north of
Actually, it's in the central, but probably
North.
close to north.
north of Manila, Metro Manila?
Yes.
And we can if some of you are in the south, like in Laguna area, maybe we could also set up another meeting. One of the days we can set up that meeting in south of Metro Manila. And for those of you who are in Metro Manila, we could have another meeting, depending on how Pastor Manny would like it to unfold. But I think Pastor Manny would like to travel and see different parts and take videos and interview some of you in your location. So we will definitely try to set it up
That'll
during
be
those
great.
days.
That'll be great.
Okay, if there are no more questions, maybe I can ask Pastor Dr. Lito Sampan. Can you please pray for Pastor Manny, pray for their team as they're traveling here on March, and pray for this event, and close our time in prayer.
All right. Thank you again. Thank you, Sir Manny. Thank you, Neil, for everything. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Lord, we want to thank you even today, gathering us, and thank you, Lord, for the wonderful perspective of helping each and every one of us, even those who are really in need of more training to go deeper to your word and become more effective in the ministry, not for anybody's glory, but for your glory. We're praying, Lord, that you're going to grant wisdom to every one of us, even to Manny and the rest of the team who are coming to the Philippines in March. We're praying, Lord, that you grant to them safety and smooth travel, especially this very time of pandemic. There's a lot of hassles and bustles because of this too many travel protocols. But again, Lord, we submit to you and we commit to you, Lord, even those who will be participating. Lord, I pray that through your ways and means, you will always be giving the opportunity even to those who are in the northern part, southern part of the Philippines to be able to not just get the materials, but eventually, Lord, we want to see transformation taking place, first and foremost, in the lives of those pastors and teachers who are sharing this one. And again, Lord, bless this gathering, bless even the coming gathering in March, and the time that this will be implemented in so many churches. Maraming salamat, Panginoon. Salamat po sa pangalan ni Jesus. Amen, amen, amen. Thank you again.
Many blessings. God bless you. I look forward to it. We can keep
Hi,
it in
Proy.
prayer.
Hi, Nas.
Thank you.
Thank you once again to everyone, especially Pastor Manny, for gracing our time tonight. And we look forward to meeting you, everyone, on March 21st to 24th.
Amen.